Welcome to Ancient Military Tactics, a channel dedicated to providing visual representation of how ancient militaries operated and waged war, going into detail about the real tactics they used to win battles, and showing you, the viewer, how this would have looked in ancient times. In this video, we will be describing the tactics used by the Romans in the Battle of Zama that took place in 202 BC. Leading the Romans was Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus, and leading the Carthaginians was Hannibal Barca. It was a massive victory for Rome, who, up until this point, had suffered one too many humiliating defeats at the hand of Carthage. Scipio was immensely popular in these days. He had campaigned successfully in Spain against the Carthaginians, and with his victories came adoration from his legions. His soldiers even went so far as to try to make him their king. His reputation was so impressive, he was voted into office as consul, even though he wasn't old enough for the position. That's like a 30-year-old being voted into office as the President of the United States. The Roman Senate at first opposed this, but seeing the amount of influence he wielded over his veteran men, they decided to let it be. Scipio was one of the few survivors of the Battle of Cannae. You can watch our video on that battle here. But surviving that gruesome and ferocious battle, he learned that tactics and strategic thinking were more important than just brute force and numbers, what the Romans mainly relied on in those days. If you want to learn more about Hannibal, please go back and watch our Battle of Cannae, in which we dive deep into Hannibal's tactics and mindset. In 205 BC, Scipio wanted more. He wanted to take the hurt to Hannibal and his Carthaginians, as they had brought the hurt to Rome. So he made plans to take an invasion force right at the heart of Carthage. He wanted to invade Africa. Upon laying his plans out to the Senate, however, they approved the campaign, but they refused to provide any Roman soldiers. Unwilling to accept this, Scipio put out word that he would be invading Africa and that he needed good men to accompany him. To the Senate's fright, he mustered up 7,000 volunteers. So, to avoid creating an enemy out of the man Rome obviously adored, the Senate agreed to send him troops. However, as a sort of backhand, they only sent legions 5 and 6, or the legions who had been defeated and humiliated in Cannae. Accounts vary, but it is estimated that Scipio commanded a force of 30,000 infantry and 6,500 cavalry, while Hannibal had as many as 40,000 infantry, but only 3,000 cavalry. He also had 80 war elephants, the largest such force raised during the Second Punic War. Hannibal mainly commanded mercenaries, or hired killers, for his army. His ranks were made up of Ligurian, Celtic, and Balearic mercenaries, along with a select few of Carthaginian veterans, men who had fought in the Italian campaign, but a large portion of his forces were brand new recruits, not veterans of battle like Scipio's men. Scipio, however, commanded veterans, men who had seen plenty of combat in their days. They consisted of hastati, principes, and triari. Now, using Total War's engine, we will show you how this battle would have looked in ancient times. Battle lines were drawn. It was time for war. Hannibal put his elephants in the front. I mean, who wouldn't want their scariest asset up front? So he put his 80 elephants in the front of his army, followed by 3 lines of infantry, with cavalry on his flanks. His first 2 lines of infantry were his weakest. For his third and final line of men, he held the best and most battle-savvy troops. Hannibal's strategy was simple. Send in his war elephants in the same way we in modern days would send in tanks or jets to disrupt and cause panic among the enemy lines. Then, clean up with infantry and cavalry, keeping his best and most experienced men in the rear, so as to use his best men on the tired Romans. Scipio, though, in his numerous campaigns against these Carthaginians, had learned a thing or two. He realized that just using brute force would not work against a general as capable and intelligent as Hannibal. Seeing those war elephants, Scipio abandoned the checkered formation that Romans usually formed in those times. Instead, he had his men in 3 ranks, one behind another, and he placed skirmishers and archers in the gaps between them, and he put the cavalry on his flanks. Scipio's strategy was to let the elephants run into the gaps between his lines, because no self-respecting elephant is going to run right into a wall of spears, and then he would pelt the elephants with his skirmishers. Once the elephants were dealt with, he could let his infantry do what Roman infantries did best: smash through the enemy lines. The battle commenced, and as expected, Hannibal unleashed his war elephants, sending them hurtling towards Scipio's line. But in a genius maneuver, Scipio sounded off with every one of his trumpeters, scaring the elephants away. A few of Hannibal's elephants were actually so shocked that they had retreated right into the Carthaginian cavalry on the left flank. Seeing this opening, Scipio's cavalry charged into the mass confusion and completely routed the Carthaginian cavalry on the left, whom they promptly chased. However, not all the elephants were scared away. A number of them continued forward, going into the gaps Scipio's lines had created. When they got into these gaps, it was target practice for the Romans. They quickly killed or routed all remaining elephants. Now came the infantry. Hannibal sent his first line forward, meeting the Romans' front line head-on. No fancy tricks, no flanking, just head-to-head combat. It was a bloodbath, but eventually, the heavily armored Romans began to cut down Hannibal's weaker mercenaries. Seeing his front line losing, Hannibal ordered forth his second line, evening the odds. But then Scipio's second line advanced, and through unimaginable combat, he began defeating Hannibal's second line. Hannibal kept his third line, his elite forces, in reserve, not committing them until he absolutely had to. But when he finally did, Scipio reorganized his forces, keeping his tired, worn-out troops in the middle and putting his fresh third line on the flanks, forming one long line of Roman soldiers. Eerily reminiscent of the Battle of Cannae, Hannibal's men began to push into the middle of the Roman line, forming a U-shape with the fresh Roman soldiers on the flanks starting to wrap around the Carthaginian lines. And just then, the Roman cavalry, who had routed their counterparts, returned from their chase, arriving just in time to crash into the rear of the Carthaginian line, effectively surrounding Hannibal and his men, leading to a massacre and giving Hannibal his first major loss as a general. It was thanks to this unforgettable battle and brilliant victory that Scipio received the title Africanus attached to his name. Thank you for watching Ancient Military Tactics, your go-to resource for the strategies and tactics used by ancient militaries throughout history to conquer their foes. We are a brand new channel, and your support would mean the world to us. So, if you liked this video and would like to see more, please subscribe and leave in the comments which ancient military tactic you'd like to see next. Until next time, thank you and have a wonderful day.